that's, you know, viscosity. Talking about how easily or not as easy that it's going to flow through those vessels. Because if the blood doesn't flow easily through the heart, we're going to end up with issues there. If it's moving too quickly, that also creates issues. The osmolarity, meaning what is the molarity of the dissolved particles? Now, when we begin to look at the vessel wall, meaning that vessel of the blood vessel, haven't really gotten to that yet. However, one of the things that we're going to see is when we're at the level of a capillary bed, okay, because it's going to have a very odd structure. That capillary bed, this is the area where exchange occurs, because the capillary bed is going to be where I am at in a tissue and at the cellular level. So what it'll be is that capillary bed will be in this area where the cells are. And one of the things that we find something called extracellular fluid. That fluid that would be around a cell. This is where materials can be exchanged. So, depending upon what part of the body I'm looking at, kind of helps determine the materials that get moved. For example, in the kidneys, I get to have the movement of sugars, salts, water. If I'm in the intestines, I'm going to get to see the movement of water and nutrients and so forth. If I'm in the lungs, I'm going to get to see the exchange of gases. Do you see where I'm going with this capillary? Because it's at this level that blood vessel is one cell layer thick. So that means that blood vessel making up the capillary, the vessel that's going around, is only one cell layer thick. What does that mean about the rest of the vessels? They're much thicker. But at the capillary beds, they're only one cell layer, and the structure of those cells in that blood vessel. This is my blood vessel, and it's only one cell layer thick. It's going to have the ability for materials to move either between the cells or through the cell. And that is how I exchange and carry out and get materials in my blood. Yes, no, maybe. Now, the ones that cannot pass through this wall, I'm hoping red blood cells do not move through that cell wall. I'm hoping that some of those proteins do not move. So if electrolytes and stuff like that, I need those to move because I need those to get to the cell themselves. Okay? So if I'm still keeping whole particles at this level, am I still not contributing to the water movement? Think about it for a second. Osmolarity. What's the definition of it?
How much water is able to pass through a membrane?
The definition of osmolarity. The diffusion of water across a selectively permeable membrane. Diffusion of water. Water will diffuse across my plasma membrane because that is the selectively permeable membrane based upon particles dissolved or found in it. Does everybody remember that from part 1? Actually, all the way back to general bio. So, if I have a huge amount of particles in this blood, would there be the possibility for there to be a lot of water?
No.
No, because if I have a huge amount of particles in the blood, chances are my water level is lower, which isn't necessarily bad, okay? However, what I do need is for the water to move back and forth freely. And there's a reason for that. All right? I do need for my water to move across this membrane freely. The reason being, the exchange is occurring in my extracellular fluid. And I'm trying to stress that, okay? Exchange between blood and tissues, meaning the area where I find the cells is done with the extracellular fluid. So this is telling me I want my water moving freely between the tissues of my body and the blood moving through my vessels. Why?
So you can transport nutrients.
That's dealing with particles. I'm now dealing with my diffusion of water. I'm talking about the water content of either that extracellular fluid or the blood. why do I need to make sure that there is equal movement between my extracellular fluid of the tissues of my body, which have the cells, and the blood content?
Hydrate the cells.
And extra cells like bigger or smaller, something like that, like the blood cell, like it can get, if it has too much water, it'll swell up, and less water, it'll like.
Do you guys remember something called isotonic?
Which means equal.
Equal. The only situation an animal cell can exist in, we're animal, so that means us, the only situation the animal cell can exist in is isotonic. I'll say that again. The only situation that the animal cell can exist in is isotonic. Any other situation can lead to death of my cell, which can lead to death of the entire tissue of the organ it's found. For example, if the water level in my extracellular fluid is too high, okay, this is meaning water stays behind in these tissues. A situation we know as edema. Ever heard of that? What is it?
It's buildup of water in the extremities.
What's another name for it?
Swelling.
Swelling. People who may sit for their jobs, some of them may have swelling in their feet, their ankles, and their lower legs. Why?
Well, it's not flowing because they're not.
The blood what?
It's not flowing properly.
And if my blood is not flowing properly, I am not getting the correct exchange between the cells of those tissues in the area of my feet, my ankles, and my lower legs. Water staying behind, they're swelling. If that happens over a long period of time, what begins to take place with those parts of my body?
Don't they change colors?
They can begin to change color.
Vein damage.
I can have damage to the veins. I can have damage to the tissues, which can lead to the discoloration and to never get it back.
Also heart troubles.
Why?
Because your heart has to pump harder to get the fluid flowing through there.
Brian, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say like nutrients.
I am not getting nutrients to those cells, and therefore I am not getting the return to the heart that is needed to get the nutrients to those cells for them to operate properly.
Is that why they wear like, you know, they tell you to wear like the compression socks? They get like sort of
I have them on right now.